The theme of the conference is smart computing, IoT, AI. All of you students who are going to graduate would like to get into the AI industry, etc. This is a very huge industry all over the world. And I hope that you do something wonderful with your education and try to see what can be done. And I will try to tell you what I think AI can do and cannot do. And that is very important. AI, IoT, smart computing, these are buzzwords nowadays. And since you have called me as chief guest, I would like to tell you what I think about them based upon my limited understanding. The theme of the conference is very vast and the knowledge is rapidly improving, something which is very good for you young researchers. So I'll briefly touch on few of the things that you should be aware of. Artificial intelligence or AI is being talked by about everybody from the highest to the lowest. And I feel that very few people understand what AI is. But yet everybody talks about it. They love to talk about it. They think that it is like a golden rod which will solve all the problems. I sometimes think that very few people really know, and most people think that it is a magic AI will solve all the problems. Unfortunately, it is not. AI is a very powerful tool, but it is a tool only. It is not a panacea. It is not the answer to everything. So you have to, as young researchers and the students, you should understand that this is a tool and nothing more. With its tremendous computing power, AI can collect huge amount of data and lots of information from existing things and try to create a meaningful output. Sometimes it also hallucinates. Do you know, have you seen AI hallucinating? So when it hallucinates, it gives you total nonsensical answer. And the tragedy and the sadness is that a lot of people do not understand that it is nonsense and yet they use it. And that is where your vivek, your wisdom and your understanding should come. And that is where the pitfall also happens. It is still dependent upon the information available on the internet and cannot produce anything new. For example, if you are working on a new project which might result in making a new discovery and want to use AI, it will give you a feedback based on what exists and nothing about the discovery you are working on. So please be careful and always consider AI as your servant and not your master. And use your vivek or wisdom to double check the answers provided by AI. That is an important lesson for all of you young researchers and students. Where things really go wrong is when you use AI tools to write essays, reports or other material without understanding the subject. And I'm sure a large number of you have done that. And you do not know anything, you just go to AI tools, you put out the flowery things and you think you have achieved something without not knowing that what you have put out is quite nonsensical. That is very unethical, and that is what is happening in most colleges, universities, and the researchers where a large number of papers or reports are being written using AI tools. People are becoming smarter that you may use any plagiarism software, they will bypass that through AI. The output, it is written in a flowery language, but it contains very little useful or often totally wrong information. It is this dishonesty of using AI for writing papers and reports without knowing much about the subject is what you should keep away from. Because by being dishonest, you do not fool others, but you only fool yourselves. The type of behavior can take you to only to a certain distance. In the long run, it will be a disaster. If you want to make anything of your life, then be honest and work ethically. By working honestly, we can really understand the problems. This is also something to think about. If you do not, if by being dishonest or ignorant, we gloss over the problem and hence can never solve it. Because understanding of the problem is the most important and honest tool that you have. And once you do that, then you can use other things to find out the problems. So you, the younger generation, are the future of this country. We are old. This country can only become great if we all work hard and honestly, and if our work is based on solid, sound, and honest data. I cannot stress more on collecting good, honest data on the ground. That can only validate what you are doing with AI. AI, however, can be used as a first line of research, and the references from this research should be thoroughly evaluated before accepting its outcome. Since AI analyzes large amount of data, it can sometimes provide proper direction for further research, thereby reducing the time for new discovery. In fact, all these powerful tools like AI and etc. has made life for mankind simpler by reducing the time. When I was doing my PhD, I would go into the library, not only in IIT Kanpur, but in also where I did my BTech, but also in University of Florida, and you should collect thick volumes of indexes and indices of research papers, go through each of them. Today AI makes it very powerful. But you have to be very, very clear on what you are seeing and then go to the references and try to find out what is available and what can be used. This is the line of thinking behind creating new solutions, molecules and materials. So AI can be very useful for doing this. Nevertheless, it should be backed by proper human research and validation of data. Otherwise, the line between reality and AI-powered virtual reality will be blurred. And this is a very tremendous ethical dilemma. You start believing AI, and after some time, you have made your brain so useless that AI takes over. You will not know what is reality and what is virtual reality. And so I can see in future AI overtaking, humans becoming smaller and smaller in the brain, and AI overtaking, and then we will have a Brahmins of AI who will write the codes, who will write everything, and they will control the world. And most of the people will simply follow what is given and dished to them. That is something which is very important for you youngsters to understand, that what is true reality and what is not. I will now share with you a few examples how we were able to create interesting solutions at our institute by collecting good data. As some of you wanted that what we have done, so I'll tell you first of all, you have seen electric rickshaws. How many of you have seen electric rickshaws? We are the creators of electric rickshaw. In 1995, when the world did not know what e-rickshaw was, we started developing, and in a very small institute of ours with hardly any technology. And in fact, you can read the whole history of electric rickshaw in this document, and you will see how we progressed, how we engaged with some of the leaders in the automotive industry who did not see anything, and now every one of them is in the electric rickshaw. So this is the tragedy of this country, that they do not have the vision to think forward. And this is 1995. We put 5 rickshaws in Pune University in 1999. And then, I don't know how you got this. You should not, just put the first slide. So you can all read about this later on. And when we, it is now copied by Chinese and everything, and in fact 60% of total electric vehicles are e-rickshaws in India. So we feel very proud that the major revolution of EV vehicles in India is because of us. Since this was a new invention, no data was available. 1995, nobody talked about, in fact, even the data of rickshaws was not known, cycle rickshaws. So to collect this data, I interviewed in a couple of cities, hundreds of cycle rickshaw pullers, owners and footpath manufacturers, because cycle rickshaw was the footpath manufacturing industry, and developed a database for the number of cycle rickshaws plying in India. At the time, when in 1995, I thought that if I give this electric motor, battery and a small controller to the rickshaw puller and he will pedal it, it will help him. It will help him increasing his income. So we went and tested, we went and to call all the rickshawalas in different places in UP. They said, if I have to spend so much money, why don't you give me a complete electric rickshaw? And that is how the electric rickshaw started. So 1999, we developed the first e-rickshaw anywhere in the world. It was copied by Chinese, it was copied by everybody. But what I'm telling you is that the data, hard data, was very important in collecting data. Even today, after 20-25 years, the data is still quoted in literature, though the number of cycle rickshaws have reduced drastically. And that is what I would like to tell you. This is not a good sign, since by now it should have been modified based upon the more recent data. But recording good data is difficult. And all of you who are in the IA, IoT, etc., you become quite lazy. I'm sorry to say that, because all the time you are on the computer. If you do not work with your hands, you will not be able to achieve something in your life. So just the data that you are getting, you will have no understanding what the data is about. So it is important that you can use all the AI tools, but see that you get good ground data on which to base upon. Another sad part is, and this is true for all the technologies being used in India, is that the majority of e-rickshaws and some of these big names in automotive industries who are also producing e-rickshaws, most of the parts are still imported from China and other countries. How can we become Viksit Bharat without producing the hardware in this country? And this is something for you. So don't spend only time on the computer. Also go out and try to see if you can produce hardware. When we developed this e-rickshaw in 2000, we got the PMDC motor developed in Pune. At the time, there was no concept of a good PMDC motor. So I hunted around, identified few of the motor manufacturers, gave them the data on what we were getting from the ground, and then they developed the PMDC motor and continued working on it. We also used the available lead-acid batteries, and I commissioned a Pune party way back in 2000 to design a small controller. There were a lot of PLC people here, and I asked them to design a small controller. So we did all this. And I thought by 2025, with so much technology which has advanced, we would be developing everything ourselves, but it is not so. So this is really a tragedy for our country. And for you researchers and the faculty members, to please inspire your youngsters and your students to develop hardware. Without hardware, you will not make this country great. Otherwise, we'll just be importing, which we are doing. We are importing everything. We cannot become, as I said, Viksit Bharat if we cannot produce materials and components from our own inventions and make most of the things in India itself. In fact, it's very interesting. In 1999, when I was developing this electric rickshaw, I thought that if we have a hub motor, how many of you know about hub motors? Few of them. If we have the hub motor, we can easily through the controller change the different things, the differential, etc. So I hunted around all over the country and I found one hub manufacturer in Bombay, way in a chawl, manufacturing surreptitiously the motor because he was getting the design from the United States, and he would not allow me to go inside. After great difficulty, I was able to get in, and at the time, a small 100-watt hub motor, he was selling for 45,000 rupees. This is 1999. So much time has gone, and yet we do not manufacture because the basic components we are still importing, the magnets, the real things, the copper wire, the high percentage purity materials are not available. Also, as some of you from North India, is somebody from North India? So you're all Maharashtra. Oh, so you must have seen a lot of e-rickshaws in North India. E-rickshaws are a very common sight in the cities. They clog the roads and in most places create a nuisance. In fact, a lot of cities are banning e-rickshaws now because they are creating a lot of nuisance on the roads. I feel that AI can help them to become Uber e-rickshaws. They provide last mile connectivity, and Uber or Ola model for these rickshaws can help everybody. So here is a challenge for some of you. However, to develop this model, good and hard data on their numbers, their characteristics, road topography and conditions are needed. They are very small, they can go into the smallest of small lanes which the other big vehicles cannot go. So how do you model that in your AI is something, this is a great challenge. I'll tell you about another very pioneering thing that we did in our institute where AI can be used. We developed the biomass-based power plants. In fact, all the biomass. What is happening? So why don't you have a, maybe you should use AI for stopping the. So in early 1990s, we developed the national policy for biomass power generation. In fact, there are 10,000 megawatt power plants established in India, and it came from our work, which became a national policy. It was implemented by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Sources, NARI. And both these things I'm telling you because the problems exist in front of you. If you, with your engineering background, can look at those problems and try to solve them, you don't need anything. You don't need AI. AI may be later on, but you can solve those problems and create a new revolution. And both these technologies created something very fantastic. In 1981, when I came back from the United States in Phaltan, I found that the sugarcane farmers, even today, in and around Phaltan were burning sugarcane waste, dry leaves after harvest. How many of you are farmers? So there are hardly anybody, huh? All of you are, and urban. Most of the farms in India, after their harvesting, they have residues. In fact, only 40 to 40% is the real thing which is used for human beings. The rest is all residues. And farmers burn it because it is a part of their waste disposal problem. Now some farmers are becoming intelligent, so they are incorporating them in the soil, but it is a small process. Even today, the huge amount of residues are burned. It creates pollution. At the same time, it is a great loss of energy. So I saw this, and as a mechanical engineer, I said, can't something be done about it? So we developed this national policy of biomass power generation, where I said, and in those times, Phaltan or rural Maharashtra used to have very poor electricity. So I said, can I produce electricity from these residues? So it will solve the twin problem of reducing the pollution and producing electricity. So for that, we first developed the database. After all, how much residues do you produce in a taluka? There was no data on that. So we collected that very good data from Phaltan taluka, and then we put out this paper and policy. In fact, I was told that Narasimha Rao was supposed to present this work as a part of the national policy from the Red Fort, but something happened. But Government of India then took it up, and they took our work and set up the National Taluka Energy Plan, in which all the talukas of the country, their biomass residue was mapped based upon our work, and then the IRDA set up this program of setting up in every taluka 20 megawatt power that we had proposed. So today there are 10,000 megawatt power plants. I do not know what is the status, but they are working. The reason why I'm telling you is that you can do wonderful things, and we are a very small institute, and in those times there were hardly anything, no internet, no phones. We saw the problem and tried to see what we can do, and based upon that, there were a lot of things which we were able to do. In early 1990s, this was a new concept, and it became the basis of National Taluka Energy Policy. And similarly is the story of lots of other pioneering studies and technologies we developed in our institute, and they are there in this very nice book that I wrote in 2014, which was released by Mashalkar, my very good friend. His Romance of Innovation, the history of renewable energy, R&D in rural setting. And I hope you can, because I have made most of my books freely available on the net. Please read them, and I hope some of you will be inspired. And again, in this, I'm just giving you a flavor that though this is a very hardware-oriented problem, but AI can be used in these biomass power plants. One of the most interesting thing, the same thing is happening in the sugar factories. You have a sugar factory, you have to get the biomass. In this case, sugarcane. In my power plant case, the agriculture residues. Agriculture residues have a lot of differences in the density, in the calorific value, in so many other things. Where do I get it from? How much should be the distance? What should be the quality? It requires a tremendous amount of AI based upon the solid data. Because I want to minimize my of the biomass. The same thing is happening in sugarcane. Since you are not farmers, you will not know the recovery of sugar is very much dependent upon so many factors. Because ultimately the sugar factory produces sugar. Today the recovery of sugar is reducing because there are hundreds of sugar factories. The quality of sugar cane is also reduced. So everybody is fighting for the same food. So it's like cats fighting for the food. And it is really harming everybody. We are using huge amount of energy, but we are producing much less sugar. And AI can really help in this process by finding out, also telling when to plant, what different things you should plant, what are the conditions so that you have the maximum. Today there are very few sugarcane cutters. So machines come. These machines cut the sugarcane to very small pieces. By the time it is loaded, it goes to the factory, most of the sugar is lost. Because of the convenience, so the farmers are getting these machines, but ultimate recovery is reducing. How do I use AI to do this? So this is a very interesting thing we can think about, and you can look back, go back to the internet, find out about the problems and solve it. I also wanted to share with you that in both these examples, the problems were right in front of us. What was needed was hard work in creating good database and providing appropriate solutions. I hope in your careers, that is what you should do. Look around for the problems that you face, then develop a good database for them, and only use AI tools to develop strategies to tackle them. Using AI tools without a good database is like producing an omelette without eggs. I would like to share with you another example of the poor use of AI without proper ground-based data. And I am sure that some of you will find this very interesting. A couple of years ago, I was asked to evaluate a project for substantial venture funding. The project was to develop detailed map of carbon content of Indian soils using satellite technology and AI. The technology was based on infrared radiation from the soil and its relationship with carbon content. In fact, since you are not farmers, one of the most important things for a good soil is high carbon content. And most of our farms have very low content, so it is necessary for the farmers to know what is their carbon content so they can add extra carbon or do something to increase the carbon content. Now, I do not know how many of you know radiation heat transfer, but since this technology, since I am a mechanical engineer trained under a very famous heat transfer specialist who got the NASA's highest award in the United States, so I knew a little bit about it. The infrared technology on which this whole thing was based, infrared changes drastically with the particle size, material of the soil and its temperature. Now you are collecting the data from almost 200 kilometers above the soil. And all the data about these properties need to be developed and the satellite readings to be calibrated accordingly. You have very few satellite readings, you have actually a lot of satellite readings, but very few ground-based data. And without this matching, this technology was a total failure. In fact, even in the developed countries, this technology is being used slowly because collecting good ground data is very difficult. So a lot of times people say, oh, we have done wonderful things with agriculture by AI. I sometimes wonder, is it true? Have you seen the actual data? Have you talked to the farmers? Because it is very easy to get a big newspaper story, get all sort of interesting things on the Facebook, but the real thing will be, how do I, and it is very applicable to all of you, how do you create solutions which are cheap, which can be done very easily and help the farmers and other people. Thus, even when advanced AI tools are used for inventing a strategy or process, it should be thoroughly validated by actual ground data. Finally, it is a very sobering thought that AI is not cheap. Have you calculated the cost of AI? Just the chat GPT, which most people use, consumes about 600 megawatt hour per day of electricity. This much amount of electricity can power 2 talukas with all the electricity demand. Just the chat GPT. And what do you ask chat GPT? All sort of nonsense. Is my boyfriend better than him? Is my girlfriend this? This is a nonsense. And yet the major portion of the network is full of such things. This much energy, as I said, can take care of 2 talukas. So thus it is a big challenge for young researchers like you to produce strategies and devices that will do AI reasonably well with less power. Very good R&D is being done where small units have been made which can do a lot of this very big AI work at a very low cost. So it is very useful for you researchers to look at that and see what can be done. So my advice to researchers and youngsters who have come to this conference is to improve AI technologies, collect data very honestly and methodically on problems that are in front of you, and then use AI tools and your Vivek to analyze and solve them. With proper data, AI can then provide right direction towards the solution path and show the actual trend on which to proceed. I wish you all the best with your conference. Thank you.